Hi everybody, this is the next chapter of science, that is light and shadow. Let us understand a little bit about light. What is light? Light is a form of energy which helps us to see objects. Without light you cannot see. When light falls on the object, some of the light gets reflected. This reflected light comes to our eyes and we are able to see the object. So when light is there, it falls on the object and that reflected light which comes to your eyes, we are able to see. So in order to see things, we need light. The object that produces light is called a source of light. So whichever object produces light is called a source of light. Sources of light are of two types, natural and artificial. Now what is natural sources of light? The sources of light that gives out light of their own in nature are called natural sources of light. For example, the sun, the stars, lightning and fire. They have their own source of light. Artificial sources of light, the sources of light created by human beings. For example, the torch, bulbs, candle, fluorescent tubes. These are man-made sources of light. Now light, it travels in a straight line. An important property of light is it travels in a straight line. Light cannot bend around objects. Here you can do an experiment at home. Take a tube or a pipe or something and just see through it and then try and bend the pipe. When you bend the pipe, you will see that you cannot see right across. So that means it tells us that light travels in a straight line. It cannot bend and then you cannot see it again. Okay? How do we see things? We can see through clean water or glass, but not through a book or a wall. I cannot see through this wall across what is there. So this happens because different materials allow different amount of light to pass through them. Okay? Now, an opaque object which does not allow any light to pass through them is called an opaque object. This wall is opaque because I cannot see. Light cannot pass through it. Wood, brick, tin are examples. Then, transparent objects which allow light to pass through them completely. Okay? Example, glass, crystal, when you can see through the glass. And then translucent. Now don't get confused with transparent and translucent. Transparent light can pass through completely. Objects which allow some light, okay, to pass through them, then they are called translucent. Example, tissue paper, frosted glass. Okay, so here you can see an image. Okay. So when light passes through it, it's called transparent. When some light can pass through it, then they are called translucent. And when no light can pass through it, it's called opaque. Okay. Now, shadows. When an opaque object comes in front of the light, it blocks the light and forms a dark patch called a shadow. Okay. So, just as I put my hand here, you can see my shadow. So, my hand is opaque because light cannot pass through my hand. A shadow is always formed on the opposite side of the light. So light is in front and my shadow is forming at the opposite side. Okay? Opaque objects form dark shadows. Translucent objects form faint shadow and transparent objects do not form any shadow. So these are the points which you need to remember, okay, about shadow. Here you can see how you can do it at home, different types of shadows that you can make with your hands. Then formation of shadow at different times of the day. Now why shadow changes from time to another? From morning till evening you will see, if you sit in one place you will see different shadows. Now why? We have different types of shadows. Shadows are formed only when a source of light is present. Okay? Without light you won't have any shadow. The shadows are formed in the opposite direction of the source of light. And when the source of light or object moves, the shadow also moves. So, when the sun moves, So that is the time the shadow also becomes bigger and smaller. So exactly at noon, when it is above our head, the shadow is the smallest, and then as it keeps moving, the shadow becomes longer. A shadow shows only the shape of or the outline of the object. It shows only the shape or the outline of the object. A shadow is always black in color. A shadow cannot have any other color. Now, movement of the Earth. Earth is a planet that moves around the Sun in a fixed path called an orbit. The Earth shows two types of movement. Earth has two types of movement. What are the two types of movement? Rotation and revolution. Now, what is rotation? The spinning of the Earth around its axis is called rotation. Okay, when the Earth spins on its axis in one place, so it's called rotation. It takes 24 hours for the Earth to complete one rotation, and it is important because it causes day and night. And revolution. What is revolution? The movement of the Earth around the Sun in its orbit is called revolution. The Earth takes 365 and 6 hours to complete one revolution. It is important as it causes changes in season. Rotation day and night, revolution seasons. Then, formation of day and night. As the Earth rotates, one half faces the Sun. Okay, as it keeps turning, one half faces the Sun and gets the light. This part of the Earth experiences day. Okay, the other half of the Earth experiences night. For example, India and USA are located on the opposite halves of the Earth. So when India has day, that is the time USA will have night, because they are opposite to each other. And when US has day, India will have night, experience night. Now, eclipses. What is an eclipse? An eclipse occurs when the Sun, Moon and the Earth are in a straight line. There are two types of eclipses, solar and lunar eclipses. Now, what is solar eclipse? A solar eclipse occurs when the Moon comes in between the Sun and the Earth. So when the Moon comes in between the Sun and the Earth, that is the time solar eclipse takes place. Okay? A solar eclipse can be of two types, total or partial solar eclipse. In a total solar eclipse, the Sun is not visible at all, and in partial, the Sun is visible. It occurs only during the day on a new moon day. So here you can see an image is there. This is how the solar eclipse takes place when the Moon comes in between the Sun and the Earth. Okay, and then you have total solar eclipse and a partial solar eclipse, and it happens during the day. Then you have lunar eclipse. A lunar eclipse occurs when the Earth comes in between the Sun and the Moon. This is the time when the Earth comes in between. That solar eclipse, Moon came in between, now the Earth comes in between, that is the time. So lunar eclipse takes place. Lunar eclipse also are of two types. In a total lunar eclipse, the Moon is not visible at all. Okay? In partial, only a part of the Moon is visible. It occurs on a full moon day. So here you can see a picture of a lunar eclipse where the Earth is in the center. So what I want you to do is write the notes in the science copy and follow it with the video. Draw, color and label the different diagrams.